If you're a fan of Tetris, or just like watching people talk about Tetris, then you're probably already looking forward to the release of Tetris Forever, a brand new compilation from Digital Eclipse that is also the third game in their Gold Masters series. While counting down the days, I started to wonder what Electronic Gaming Monthly thought of this influential puzzle series. What was their favorite version of Tetris? Believe it or not, EGM reviewed a total of 18 games in the Tetris franchise. That includes many versions of the classic computer game, multiple attempts to refresh the series, and even a few oddball spin-offs that you might have forgotten about, like Wordtris or that Blastris game that came with the Super Scope. Unfortunately, Electronic Gaming Monthly didn't share their opinion of Hatris or the Nintendo-published Tetris game on the Nintendo Entertainment System. But even without those titles, I feel like we have a strong list that covers a surprising amount of consoles. What we're going to do today is count down the best and worst Tetris games using nothing more than Electronic Gaming Monthly's own words and scores. There's no editorializing here. We're just going to focus on what the critics said back when these games first came out. So, get ready to line things up perfectly because this is what happens when EGM ranks Tetris.
When things start changing right before your eyes. When shapes just seem to appear out of nowhere. When the whole world seems transformed. You've been Tetrisized. Nintendo introduces Tetris. It will mesmerize you. Tetris challenges the mind and puzzles the imagination. No other game can stack up to Tetris. Nintendo, now you're playing with power.
Kicking things off at number 18, it's the Next Tetris Online Edition on the Dreamcast. I love Tetris. I've logged hours upon hours of play on the previous versions of it. Never been one for the Next Tetris. Feels too much like one of those cheap knockoffs from the 80s. If I could play two-player classic Tetris online or against a friend in the same room, that'd be all I need. Instead, in this pack, Classic Tetris is limited to a one-player game that is not online. Would it have been that hard to make this the ultimate Tetris package? Aside from the screen names, you don't really know who your opponents are, you can't chat or trash talk, and the games are unbelievably short. Don't waste your money. Number 17, the Next Tetris on the Nuon. For those of you who don't know what the Next Tetris is, a quick primer. It's Tetris, where each stage begins with a few randomly placed blocks. When you clear those, the stage ends and your rank goes up based on your speed. The pieces are the same familiar Tetris shapes, but made of different colors that'll break apart and fall into slots, filling up holes to clear more lines. I'm not a big fan of the Next Tetris on any system. I prefer the good old Tetris any day. But the Nuon version is decent, if nothing special. There's very few options and really no other play modes unless you count Marathon. Classic Tetris is also included, thank God, and while it looks fine and controls okay with the Nuon's D-pad, it's also inexcusably bare-boned. The music is forgettable, there are absolutely no settings or options for difficulty or anything else, and worst of all, no two-player mode. Yeah, it's Tetris, and it's free with the Toshiba SD2300, but it's not quite as good as even your average version of the game. Number 16, Tetris Worlds on the GameCube. The owners of the Tetris license have got to stop whoring it out. Yes, Worlds includes the original Tetris. Whoopee! You can get that anywhere. What you're paying for are the new modes, and unfortunately, most of those mesh with the classic Tetris formula like a square puzzle piece in a round hole. Square Tetris, for example, has you trying to create 4x4 squares. Hotline Tetris wants you to clear lines at certain points. Fun? No. Stupid? Yup. Number 15, Blastris, which is part of the Super Scope 6 on the Super NES. While the Super Scope looks cool and works very accurately, I just don't believe that many companies will support this bazooka. The games that come with it get boring quickly. Also, I just don't trust Nintendo. How long did they support the Power Pad? When did they bring out their last light gun game? Remember Rob? Number 14, Tetris 2 on the Nintendo Entertainment System. I liked Tetris, and this card tries hard to improve upon that theme, but it just doesn't have the addictive fun that the first one had. The new 2-player mode is nice, but something seems missing. The colors don't seem all that good. What Tetris 2 does have going for it is a nice change of pace. I'd recommend this game for puzzle players. Good, but not much better than the first Tetris. Number 13, Wordtris on the Super Nintendo. Come on now. I like Tetris, but isn't this taking it a bit too far? Sure, the gameplay is similar, but it just isn't the same. The backgrounds are interesting, and the playing concept is different than 90% of the Super NES carts out there. It's a change of pace that'll stimulate your mind as well as your reflexes. Number 12, Magical Tetris Challenge. If you're an N64 owner who's been itching for a good version of Tetris to come along, Magical Tetris Challenge is definitely for you. The differences between Magical Tetris and Classic Tetris are subtle, but they make for an interesting and fun twist on the classic theme. The combo system adds a new level of strategy to the game, and the instant drop and TLS feature make for even tighter control. Watch out for the cheesy story, though. Number 11, Tetris Plus on the Saturn. Like Michael Jackson, Tetris knows how to make a comeback, but a lot of us are tired of it by now. Tetris is a classic, absolutely no doubt. It defined one of my favorite genres, the puzzle game. I still remember having dreams about falling blocks from too many hours of playing the game. This version is the best way to get this game. It has a 2-player competitive mode that is not like the originals, and this time you get to customize your own levels too. This would almost be perfect if I hadn't played the hell out of the original. Still, it's a good package for even a part-time Tetris fan. Number 10, the new Tetris on the Nintendo 64. Don't let the word new fool you. The new Tetris is old school Tetris through and through. Added into the mix are an excellent soundtrack, a good multiplayer mode, and an educational way of building up historical monuments. But keeping this from being the definitive Tetris is that you can't customize your own style. It's a great game without that, but would have been a classic with it.
Tetris 2!
Tetris 2.
Tetris 2! Tetris 2!
Tetris 2. It's not just Tetris. Now challenge the system or go head to head. Different shapes, different shades, and this time, there's bombs in it. It's Tetris 2 on Game Boy or NES.
And we're back with number 9, the next Tetris on the PlayStation. I thought I'd played enough variations of Tetris, thank you very much, but the next Tetris surprised me with its simple twist on the classic block-dropping formula. The new splitting blocks demand just enough extra brain power to keep Puzzle Fighter fans interested, and you can always switch to the original mode if you like your Tetris the old-fashioned way. The graphics are simple, but I especially like being able to pop in any music CD I want. Number 8, Tetris on the Game Boy. A fascinating game for puzzle lovers, one of the best for the Game Boy. The 2-player version is outstanding, and the second 25-line mode makes it easy to play a quick game by yourself. With 9 speed settings and 5 handicaps, Tetris is a perfect match for anybody. Number 7, Tetris DS on the Nintendo DS. In Soviet Russia, you play Tetris alone on monochrome Electronica 60 computer. In America, you play with 9 comrades over Wi-Fi on color handheld. What a country! Oh, it's funny because it's true. Cold War era comedian Yakov Smirnoff. Tetris has changed in the 20 years since both you and it left the motherland. But it hasn't evolved quite enough to be worth your rubles if you already own a portable incarnation. Still, playing it with a friend is a Chernobyl-sized blast, and the remixed tunes from your favorite made-in-Japan Nintendo franchises will have you pointing at the Far East Island nation and hollering, "What a country!" Number 6, Tetris Blast on the Game Boy. This is yet another sequel that fails to inspire the addiction of the original. The game is really playable, but the small Game Boy screen makes it harder to see. Use the Super Game Boy instead. The blocks don't rotate, instead they automatically change their angle. This causes a few problems when placing blocks quickly. The gameplay is simple enough. Making horizontal rows may sound easy, but it does get tough around level 20. Fun, but monotonous. Number 5, Tetris 2 on the Super Nintendo. You've all played the 8-bit and every other possible version. Now, here comes the same on the 16-bit platform. If you're a fan of the first one, then this one will definitely please. This time there are more backgrounds. The 2-player is an absolutely addictive blast and will keep a pair playing all night. Number 4, Tetris Attack on the Super Nintendo. As I've said before, puzzle games are the best title for gamers of all ages. There's no exception with Nintendo's latest release, Tetris Attack. It gives the player a solid foundation to build a fun one-player game and an outstanding 2-player head-to-head title. I found the block-switching style of play really imaginative. It allows players to set up the best combos ever seen on the screen to smash their opponent. The play speed is also exciting, giving players the feeling that they're never moving fast enough. I'm sure that this title has caused many players' heart rates to soar from the excitement. Number 3, Tetrisphere on the Nintendo 64. Wow was the only word that came out when I first played this one. Everything from the graphics to the gameplay was perfect. What's nice is that you can be a novice and still have fun, since the game can be of luck or skill. On top of this, the funky and sometimes ambient sounds fit the game well. My only gripe is that luck often plays too much of a part. Number 2, Tetris DS on the Game Boy Color. I've always thought that when it comes to gameplay and replay value, nothing beats Tetris. And the original Game Boy version has always been my favorite. I mean, come on, you can play the most addictive game ever on the crapper. So of course, I'm mucho pleased with this sharp color update. The new play modes are cool, sure, but I really like being able to save your high scores. Someday, I'll beat John Riccardi's record. And finally, at number 1, it's the Tengen version of Tetris on the Nintendo Entertainment System. While Tetris won't win any awards for being a hard shooter or riveting adventure, it does capture the multitude of the play mechanics that make these types of games so appealing. Simple but original gameplay make Tetris an addictive alternative to the endless supply of shoot-em-ups, kick-em-ups, and bash-em-ups, and very worthy of the US National Video Game Team's coveted Player's Seal of Approval.
I mean, I can't believe Bobby did that to me. We're sitting there playing Tetris and he just dumps all over me. I mean, I thought we were friends.
Hey, if you can't pass the test, then leave the class. Besides, it wasn't me who dumped on him, it was Lewis.
Well then, let's bring out Lewis.
With the new Tetris, bury 3 friends in garbage and watch things really get out of hand. Only on N64.
Hey, thanks for watching me break down these classic reviews. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we have a whole playlist with tons of these EGM Ranks episodes. We've covered Mario, Sonic, Final Fantasy, Burnout, Street Fighter, Tekken, Ridge Racer, and just dozens more franchises. Give it a binge when you have a few minutes to spare. Now, here's the question I have for you. What's your favorite Tetris game? I know that a lot of people swear by the old Tengen version, but I've always really been into the Game Boy one. The only problem is that you can't save your high scores with that version. Tetris DS is basically the same as the Game Boy game, but it has muted colors and a battery backup. For me, that's just the best version. I don't know, perhaps the new Tetris Forever will change my mind. Let me see your picks in the comments below. In other news, we'll be back later this week with, something? I don't know what. I guess we'll all be surprised at the same time. If you're okay with not knowing what the future holds, then do me a favor and click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.